Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Hell in a Cell review. What a worthless show this was. This show was absolutely worthless. It was terrible, god-awful, and a waste of time. So what do we see on the show tonight? We had the two Hell in a Cell matches. Of course, Bianca Belair versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. We had Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. Hell in a Cell WWE Championship on the line. If McIntyre end up losing the match, he won't get to face Bobby Lashley again, or get to have an opportunity again at the WWE Championship. We had Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. We had also Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. But all in all, this show was completely worthless and a waste of time. And this is the last WWE pay-per-view that they are doing inside the Thunderdome. And hallelujah for that. So starting with Money in the Bank next month, we're going to get fans in attendance, which I am looking forward to. Looking forward to hearing fans at a WWE show, cheer and make some noise. Although, with the shit that WWE feeds us, and it is bad shit, I can already tell that the fans are going to start booing shit that they don't like. And I can tell for once that the Alexa Bliss thing that they're doing, fans are going to be booing that. And it's not going to last. The whole Alexa Bliss storyline here, where it's going nowhere with her, fans are going to be booing that, and they're going to have to change Alexa Bliss's character, because of negative response that's going to come when the crowd comes back in attendance. So that's going to happen. Mark my words. When Alexa Bliss appears on TV and the crowd is there, they're going to boo the hell out of that. They're not going to like that shit. And WWE is going to have no choice but to force or maybe change Alexa Bliss's character. So, but looking forward to seeing the fans back in attendance, starting with Money in the Bank next month. Even though we saw fans at WrestleMania, and then after WrestleMania, they went back into the Thunderdome. Really glad that starting at Money in the Bank, fans are going to be in attendance every single week for a WWE show. But overall, let's jump right into the review. So, we're going to start with the match that was on the Kickoff show, which I didn't watch, but it was Natalya versus Mandy Rose. And Natalya apparently got the win. She locked in the sharpshooter on Mandy Rose. So Natalya ended up winning. Wouldn't be surprised if we see tomorrow night on Raw, Natalya versus Dana Brooke. Watch that will happen. Or we're going to get a rematch with Natalya and Mandy Rose. Watch, I can see them doing that tomorrow night on Raw. So that was your kickoff match. And so, I'm going to start with the regular match card. So, the pay-per-view opened with the Hell in a Cell match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley versus Bianca Belair. This was a very good match. Both Bayley and Bianca destroy each other here. And I gotta say, this match shouldn't have been in Hell in a Cell. I think Seth Rollins versus Cesaro deserved more to be in Hell in a Cell than Bayley and Bianca. But we had the match starting off with Bianca and Bayley both taunting each other, and they both locked up. Bianca Belair ended up scooping Bayley up, slammed her on the mat. Bianca then ended up delivering a clothesline to Bayley. Bayley went out to the floor for a breather. Bayley ended up taking her time, but she ended up coming back up on the apron. Bianca Belair ended up grabbing Bayley, but Bayley ended up snapping Bianca Belair over the middle rope. Bayley went under the ring and she retrieved a chair and she retrieved another chair, so she retrieved two chairs from under the ring. She ended up sliding both chairs into the ring. Bayley dropped Bianca Belair and grabbed the chair. Bianca ended up going for another chair, but Bayley ended up kicking the chair out to the floor. She was stalking Bianca with the chair. Bayley ended up swinging the chair at Bianca, which Bianca ended up ducking. She ended up rolling up Bayley for a 2 count. Bayley then grabbed the chair and started staring Bianca Belair down. Bianca was swinging her hair. Instead, she was fighting Bayley off, shoved her into the chair in the corner. Bianca ended up drop kicking Bayley, started yelling at her, and Bianca delivered a shoulder in the corner to Bayley. So Bianca ended up leaping to the top for a superplex, but Bayley ended up fighting her off. Bianca then hit the ring post on her way down, which Bayley ended up sending Bianca Belair shoulder first into the ring post, and then ended up kicking her. There are points where Bayley was using Bianca's hair. Like there was a point where Bayley ended up tying Bianca's hair to the bottom rope, and she was just laying it all out on Bianca. There was a point where Bayley ended up tying also Bianca's hair to the chair later on in the match. So Bayley was focusing, of course, on Bianca's hair. And there was a point where Bianca ended up tying her hair to Bayley's hand and just started punching her. At the end of the match, Bianca ended up grabbing Bayley, ended up dropping her onto a ladder, which Bayley ended up retrieving the ladder from under the ring. So Bianca ended up grabbing Bayley, dropped her onto the ladder with the KOD, and Bianca went for the cover. And there you go. We had Bianca Belair end up winning the match, retaining the SmackDown Women's Championship. So, post-match, we saw Bianca end up standing tall in the ring. She standing over Bayley with the SmackDown Women's Championship in the air. Bayley ended up backing her way out of the ring as Bianca stood tall, still in there. And that was that. But overall, this was a good match. Both Bianca and Bayley delivered here. But this match shouldn't have been inside Hell in a Cell. I think, like I said before, Seth Rollins and Cesaro, they should have fought inside Hell in a Cell, not Bayley and Bianca. So that's my opinion. But overall, it was still a good match. You know, the pay-per-view started out strong with this. And then we saw Megan Morant. She was backstage with Bianca Belair. Bianca ended up telling Megan Morant that her first Hell in a Cell was brutal, but she kept her title. Bianca ended up admitted Bayley kicked her butt, but she will never forgive her. So that was what Bianca had to say, you know, coming out of her win against Bayley. But this whole feud with Bianca and Bayley has just been nothing but Bayley laughing. Nothing but that's it. That's all this feud was built upon, on Bayley's laughing. It's terrible. This feud should have been built a whole lot better than then just giving it all to Bayley just laughing. I mean, I'm a huge Bayley fan, you know, but still, building upon this feud with just her laughing is ridiculous. And you have Bianca end up mimicking Bayley with her laughing. Feud is based upon laughter. So then we had Alexa Bliss backstage on her playground, Alexa's playground. She was sitting on a swing. She ended up saying what a painful night this was for Bayley, but a great one for Bianca. Alexa Bliss ended up saying that she is glad everyone has joined her in hell in a cell. She wanted to say that Lily is still in timeout because of how naughty she was. So Alexa ended up going on about how Shayna Baszler was naughtier and brought all this on herself, and that Alexa Bliss isn't to blame for what will happen to Shayna. Bliss went on and she ended up saying that you never know who or what will answer when you knock on her door. So that was what Alexa Bliss had to say. And then we had Cesaro versus Seth Rollins, which to me was the best match of the night. This was an awesome match here. May not have been as good as their WrestleMania match, but still, Cesaro and Seth Rollins delivered tonight. It was the best match of the night here. So Cesaro ended up coming out first, and then Seth Rollins ended up attacking Cesaro out of nowhere at the bottom of the ramp. Cesaro then ended up fighting back. Both him and Rollins end up in the ring. The referee was trying to restore order for the both of them. So the bell ended up ringing. Rollins ended up leaping, but Cesaro ended up catching Rollins and delivered a power slam to Rollins. So Rollins ended up fighting back. Cesaro delivered a back body drop to Rollins in the middle of the ring. Cesaro knocked Rollins over the top rope with a running boot. So Cesaro ended up following up, but Rollins ended up decking Cesaro, which Cesaro ended up sending Rollins face first into the barricade and delivered a uppercut. Cesaro then rolled Rollins back into the ring. Cesaro went up to the top, and Cesaro flied off the top with a double axe handle to Rollins. Cesaro went for the cover. Rollins ended up kicking out at one. So Cesaro kept on beating Rollins while he was down. Cesaro then ended up sending Rollins face first into the turnbuckle. So Cesaro started unloading in the opposite corner to Rollins. Rollins went face first into another turnbuckle, and Cesaro was just laying more uppercuts in the corner to Rollins. So Rollins ended up kicking Cesaro, and he ended up dropping him face first into the middle turnbuckle as Rollins was grinding Cesaro's face into the middle rope. Rollins kept control of the match here, and he ended up dropping Cesaro with the DDT. Rollins went for the cover, which Cesaro kicked out at two. Rollins kept on beating Cesaro around the ring, talking trash to Cesaro while he was down. So there was a point where Cesaro ended up blocking a running kick from Rollins, and he ended up nailing the uppercut, but Rollins ended up coming right back. They started trading shots. Cesaro delivered some more uppercuts and some blows to Rollins into the corner. So at the end of the match, we had shitty 50-50 booking here. This is 50-50 booking here, where Rollins ended up reaching for the bottom rope because Cesaro locked in the sharpshooter to Rollins. So Rollins reached for the bottom rope. Cesaro ended up pulling him back. So the sharpshooter was broken, but Cesaro ended up stomping on Seth Rollins' limbs. And Rollins ended up catching Cesaro because I guess Cesaro was going for another sharpshooter attempt. And Rollins ended up rolling Cesaro up out of nowhere. So Seth Rollins ended up winning the match. But to me, Cesaro should have won this match. I think Cesaro made a mistake here in going for another sharpshooter attempt because it was easy there for Seth Rollins to roll him up out of nowhere and get the win. So, but when Rollins got the pin, Cesaro had a disappointed look on his face, and Rollins was limping around, and Rollins was just laughing from the stage because of him pinning Cesaro. So that was that. But overall, this was the best match of the night, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this match between Cesaro and Seth Rollins. Like I said, it might not have been as good as their WrestleMania match, but they still delivered here. And then we had a promo for Money in the Bank, which is going to be on July 18th. It's going to be taking place in Fort Worth, Texas. So we had the promo for that. Looking forward to Money in the Bank. You know, we're going to have fans back in attendance. You know, after WrestleMania, which was the first pay-per-view to have fans back in attendance, though. But it's good. It's going to be good to see Money in the Bank having fans in attendance. And then we had Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax and Reginald were with her. And Shayna Baszler ended up telling Sarah Schreiber to never say the name of that stupid doll, Lily, again. Baszler went on to say that she also isn't worried about the comments that was made earlier from Alexa. So, that was that. And then this is where the pay-per-view went downhill. This is where the pay-per-view became absolutely worthless. Raw matches killed this pay-per-view. Starting right here with Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss. This match was absolutely fucking awful and boring. So Shayna Baszler ended up making her entrance, came out along with Nia Jax and Reginald, which was in the news, but Vince McMahon is a fan of Reginald. Why? Why? I don't understand. What is there for Vince to like about Reginald? The guy does flips whenever he's in a match. Oh, so you're telling me, you're impressed with Reginald doing flips all the time? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Vince? You think that that's good shit, that that's good wrestling there? It's just him doing flips. I don't understand. What is there to like about Reginald? So we had Alexa Bliss end up coming out next. Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler end up staring each other down as the bell ended up ringing. Reginald ended up jumping on the apron to distract Alexa Bliss, which allowed Shayna Baszler to deliver a clothesline to Alexa Bliss. Shayna Baszler started unloading with body shots in the corner. Shayna Baszler ended up attacking Alexa Bliss, started stomping away to keep her down. So Alexa Bliss ended up charging out of the corner. She ended up clipping the leg of Shayna Baszler. Alexa Bliss ended up doing this crawl. She ended up standing up, and she delivers a right to Shayna Baszler. Alexa Bliss ended up delivering a big kick and the double knees to the back against the ropes to Shayna Baszler. Alexa Bliss kept control of the match, started delivering some more offense to Baszler. Reginald ended up getting back on the apron. Alexa Bliss ended up staring at him, and apparently it looked like it was hurting Reginald because he was covering his face. He ended up backing away to the floor. If you remember on Monday Night Raw last week, Alexa Bliss ended up hypnotizing Reginald. You know, when Alexa Bliss hypnotizing Reginald, she shouldn't have hypnotized Reginald. She should hypnotize the people in WWE Creative to put on better shows. That's what she should have focused on than Reginald. Put everybody in WWE Creative and hypnotize them to make better shows. Or to make better Monday Night Raw shows. Make Raw a better show. That's what she should have done. So Shayna Baszler ended up taking advantage. She ended up decking Alexa Bliss from behind. Started unloading in the corner. Delivered a jumping knee strike. So there's a point where Reginald and Nia Jax walk over to check on Shayna Baszler. Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax end up locking eyes. Nia Jax end up stopping in Alexa Bliss's tracks. So Alexa Bliss was controlling Nia Jax's arm. She was making it raise up, and Reginald was trying to get Nia Jax to snap out of it. And so Nia Jax ended up screaming, and she ended up slapping Reginald, which was move controlled by Alexa Bliss. Because apparently Alexa Bliss had Nia Jax in a trance. She hypnotized Nia Jax. So Alexa Bliss screams, makes Nia Jax scream back at her. Shayna Baszler ended up coming from behind with the Karafuda clutch on Alexa Bliss, but Bliss ended up getting right out of it. So Alexa Bliss ended up dropping Shayna Baszler with a looked like a modified Sister Abigail. So Nia Jax was confused. Alexa Bliss ended up going to the top, delivered Twisted Bliss. There you go. Alexa Bliss ended up winning the match. So post-match, Alexa Bliss ended up backing up the ramp. She was shown waving and smiling at Nia Jax and Reginald. So Nia Jax and Reginald ended up checking on Shayna Baszler. And Alexa Bliss ended up stopping. She ended up laughing back at the ring. And we saw a graphic of Lily shown on the screen. So that was that. But overall, this match was absolutely terrible. Match was absolutely boring also. Like I said, when fans come back in attendance, they're not going to like this Alexa Bliss shit. They're going to boo the hell out of it. And I can't wait to see it. Alexa Bliss's character is not going anywhere. So then we had Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. This was a good match here. I could watch Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens go at it all the time and never get bored of it. They just put on good matches together. They know each other well, both Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So the match ended up starting. Kevin Owens ended up sending Sami Zayn into the barricade at ringside. Sami started unloading in the corner as the referee was warning Sami Zayn. Sami ended up dropping Kevin Owens with a shoulder. Owens ended up blocking a few suplex attempts from Sami Zayn. Owens ended up dropping Sami Zayn over the top rope. He delivered a running clothesline in the corner. Owens then delivered a cannonball in the corner to Sami Zayn. Owens went for the cover, which Sami Zayn ended up kicking out at 2. So Kevin Owens ended up stopping Sami Zayn from going to the floor. Sami then pulled Kevin Owens into the middle rope. Owens ended up rolling out to the floor to regroup. So Sami ended up leaping over the top, which took Kevin Owens down at ringside. So Owens was walking around ringside. He was clutching his arm in pain. So Owens then got back to the ring. And it looks like Kevin Owens had a wrist injury. So the referee was checking on him. He ended up stopping Sami Zayn from attacking. Sami Zayn then nailed a running boot to Kevin Owens' face. He was stomping on Kevin Owens while he was down. So Sami ended up mounting Kevin Owens on the mat with some right hands. And Kevin Owens was selling the injury sustained from Commander Aziz with the Nigerian nail that was delivered on SmackDown on Friday. So at the end of the match, we had Sami Zayn end up delivering the haluva kick to Kevin Owens in the corner. And Sami went for the cover. And there you go. Sami Zayn ended up winning the match. Sami Zayn won clean on pay-per-view. So post-match, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were trying to recover. Sami started dancing around the ring. He was bragging about beating Kevin Owens. So the referee then checked on Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn ended up rolling to the announce table. He was bragging about winning to Kevin Owens. And he was talking about getting justice. And pretty much that was basically that. But overall, this was a good match. And like I said, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens know each other very well. And whenever they're in the match together, it never disappoints. You know, even though we say, oh, how many times have we seen Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens? Whenever they're in the ring, they're just absolutely entertaining. They put on entertaining matches together. So, that was a good match. Then we saw Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. This match was boring. Match was terrible. How many times have we seen Charlotte and Rhea Ripley go at it? It's just getting old. And how many times have we got to see Charlotte get title opportunity after title opportunity after title opportunity after title opportunity after title opportunity? Please, stop it. So, we saw Charlotte end up taking Rhea Ripley down from the corner. Charlotte ended up delivering a natural selection for the pin to Rhea Ripley, but Charlotte ended up putting her foot on the bottom rope, and Rhea Ripley ended up kicking out. So Rhea Ripley ended up delivering a suplex to Charlotte. Rhea Ripley ended up charging at Charlotte, but Charlotte ended up catching Rhea with the backbreaker, which sent her face first into the middle turnbuckle. Charlotte then went to the top turnbuckle, and she went for a moonsault, but landed on her feet. And Rhea Ripley ended up kicking out because Charlotte ended up going for the cover. Rhea Ripley ended up kicking out. Charlotte then continued to work on Rhea's leg. Rhea Ripley ended up blocking the figure four and rolled Charlotte up for one attempt for a quick one. So Charlotte kept control. She went back to the top. Rhea Ripley ended up jumping up to the top and started decking at Charlotte. So Charlotte then ended up dropping Rhea Ripley, ended up applying the figure four. Rhea Ripley ended up fighting out of it, but Charlotte ended up tightening the hold. So Rhea Ripley then made it to the bottom rope to break up the figure four. So Rhea Ripley ended up sliding out of the ring to get out of the figure four, but Charlotte ended up falling out with her. Rhea Ripley was screaming in pain from the lock from the figure four. Charlotte then ended up approaching, but Rhea Ripley ended up yanking the top of the announce table off, and she ended up smashing Charlotte in the face with the top of the announce table. And then the referee ended up calling for the match. What? Since when? Since when is this a DQ? Because Charlotte won the match by DQ. What is this? Have we not seen somebody take the top of the announce table and smash somebody with it? And yet, this is a DQ. Vince is just making up new shit. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. If you all thought The Fiend and Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell from 2019 was stupid, where the referee ended up calling for the match. This might be the second. This might be the second shittiest thing. I don't believe it. Charlotte wins the match by DQ because of Rhea Ripley yanking the top of the announce table off, smashing Charlotte in the face with it. Makes no fucking sense. Post-match, Rhea Ripley was staying on Charlotte at ringside. The referee was trying to get her to stop. Rhea Ripley started unloading as Flair ended up rolling back into the ring. Rhea Ripley ended up following, but Charlotte ended up tackling her, and they end up brawling. So Charlotte ended up getting sent face first into the middle turnbuckle from Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley ended up slamming Charlotte in the middle of the ring with the Riptide. Rhea Ripley ended up going to ringside to grab the Royal Women's Championship. So Mike Rome ended up announcing Charlotte as the winner by disqualification. And Rhea Ripley is still the Royal Women's Champion. So that was that. Well, overall, this match was terrible. Awful match. And that stupid finish with Rhea Ripley yanking the top of the announce table off, smashing Charlotte in the face with it. Absolutely fucking terrible. Absolutely stupid. And then we went to the main event. Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Championship. If McIntyre ended up losing the match, he will no longer be able to challenge for the WWE Championship as long as Bobby Lashley is the champion. And this was a good match here. This was, an enjoyable main event. I mean, how many times have we seen McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, though? But we had Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre in the ring. Lashley ended up taunting McIntyre as the bell ended up ringing. MVP was barking from ringside. McIntyre ended up staring Bobby Lashley down. Lashley ended up going right to ringside to retrieve a weapon. McIntyre ended up attacking and ended up sending Lashley into the wall of the cell, which I said it before and I'll say it again. The Hell in the Cell, the red Hell in the Cell is an eyesore. It is awful looking. They should just bring back the original look of the cell. At least with the original cell, it looked a whole lot more better and a whole lot more dangerous than this red looking Hell in the Cell, which makes it, this red Hell in the Cell looks like a damn milk crate. So McIntyre ended up slamming Lashley's face into the steel of the cell. McIntyre ended up lifting Lashley, ended up ramming him back into the steel of the cell again. And McIntyre then ended up sending Lashley headfirst into the ring post. McIntyre then ended up grabbing half of the ring steps, ended up running with the steps, but Lashley ended up kicking him, and the steps ended up falling. Lashley sent McIntyre face first into the steel, then drove a knee into McIntyre against the wall. McIntyre ended up blocking a suplex from Lashley at ringside, and then he launched Lashley into the cell wall. So MVP was encouraging Bobby Lashley to get back up to his feet. McIntyre then went and grabbed the ring steps again, and he ended up hitting Lashley with the steps head first. So we had McIntyre end up bringing Lashley back to the ring. Lashley ended up blocking the Future Shock DDT. McIntyre ended up coming right back with a big boot. He ended up launching Lashley across the ring with a overhead throw. McIntyre ended up going to work on Lashley with a kendo stick at ringside. McIntyre then ended up bringing a table from under the ring, started unfolding the table. He ended up leaning the table against the cell wall. MVP then ended up giving Lashley his cane, and Lashley ended up taking the cane from MVP through the fence of the cell. And Lashley ended up jabbing McIntyre in the throat with MVP's cane, started beating him down. McIntyre was gasping for air as MVP was shown limping around at ringside. Lashley then ended up sending McIntyre head first into the steel and then delivered a boot to McIntyre. So Lashley ended up slamming McIntyre back into the edge of the apron, started just working on him. Now there was a point later on in the match where MVP was inside of the cell. And MVP was locked inside the cell. He ended up turning around to McIntyre. McIntyre started beating MVP down, sending him into the ring post and into the cell. McIntyre then rolled MVP into the ring. And McIntyre was waiting for MVP to get back up to his feet. And MVP ended up taking a Claymore from McIntyre. So McIntyre was manhandling MVP at ringside. And Lashley ended up coming from behind, ended up applying the Hurt Lock. McIntyre ended up trying to fight out of the Hurt Lock. And him and Lashley end up going through the table that was leaning against the cell. And both guys were down. McIntyre ended up getting up to his knees. And he was standing. He ended up picking up Lashley, rolled him into the ring. And McIntyre then grabbed the chair. He was waiting for Lashley to get back up. McIntyre delivered a chair shot over Lashley's back. And he was staring Lashley down. He started delivering some more chair shots to Lashley's back. And at the end of the match, McIntyre was waiting for Lashley to get back up. He was waiting in the corner. He ended up going for the Claymore, but MVP was holding McIntyre's leg. So McIntyre ended up turning to kick MVP away. And that's when Bobby Lashley ended up taking advantage of the match, started rolling up on McIntyre. And there you go. Bobby Lashley ended up winning the match, retaining the WWE Championship. So now McIntyre will no longer be able to challenge Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship as long as he's the champion. So there you go. No more shots for Drew McIntyre. Post-match, we had Lashley end up exiting the cell. He ends up falling down at the bottom of the ramp. MVP was stumbling to the ground next to him. So McIntyre ended up looking disappointed in the ring. So Lashley ended up clutching the WWE Championship. And him and MVP ended up standing tall on the stage. McIntyre was staring back from the ring. And that was how Hell in a Cell ended. You know, McIntyre was seen in the ring, just disappointed. So, but overall, this was a worthless pay-per-view. It was absolutely terrible. And like I said, Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre, it was, good match here. But overall, worthless pay-per-view. But anyways, that's it for my review of Hell in a Cell. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.